Kids can't learn without having good nutrition. There are food security issues in Halton, particularly Burlington, where 40% of the people served by the Burlington Food Bank in 2019 were children, and this is higher than the provincial average. Not all kids are facing this situation, but every child needs healthy food to learn at their best. Today, my guests will share why this should be top of mind for parents, along with some healthy snack ideas to maximize learning. Welcome to Beyond the Classroom. I'm your host, Cathy Thompson. My first guest today is Jennifer Petrino. Jennifer has worked as a dietitian for over 20 years. In her career, she's worked at the Dietitians of Canada, Dairy Farmers of Canada, Sick Kids Hospital, and Ryerson University. She has also previously worked in private practice, bringing credible nutrition advice to families in the Halton region. Jennifer is also the mom of two children, 10 and 7. Jackie is there, and we will ask her some questions as well. And Jennifer believes in the importance of food skills and food literacy, and that these skills should be starting at a young age. In her current role, she works with dietitians across Ontario to bring their credible nutrition advice to the public. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. Can you share with us the link between proper nutrition and how our brains work?
Yeah. So there's lots of research on how food affects our brain and learning. And certainly we know that when we eat well, our brains function better. And probably all of us know that, on a day-to-day basis, when we've had, meals and snacks throughout the day, our brains just function better. And then we skip meals or we don't eat meals, we sort of feel a little sluggish and we are not concentrating as well. So there's lots of really great links between eating well and improved memory, improved concentration, and for kids, obviously improved performance at school.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that if, me personally, if I am getting a headache, I think, do I need water or do I need food? Because it's such an important thing. Or if I'm not concentrating really well on like mathematical tasks, um, that shows up for me, nutrition.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes.
So I want to talk about snacks. We were just thinking about different types of snacks and things that we could feed to our children and what's going to maximize those learning. So for you, what are your top 3 go-to snacks for your kids?
Kathy, I find top 3 hard. There's so many things that I could share. But I always think about what's easy to grab and go. And so for me, and what I advise people and what we practice here in our own home is fruit is an easy grab and go. Having some apple slices or banana, some oranges, cut up strawberries, any fruit is really a good source of nutrition to feed your brain. My second one would be something like a yogurt, grab and go. Again, something that's easy to have quickly on the go. And the variety, there's so many varieties of yogurts. They can be dairy-free, vegan, they can be cow's milk, so they can be any kind of suit any kind of diet. And then the other thing I think about is, those whole grains and, whole grain crackers, something that's easy to maybe not as grab and go, but crackers and peanut butter, crackers and cheese, something that's just going to keep that nutrition feeding the brain and some glucose feeding the brain. So those are my top 3, although I could go on.
And so in terms of the snacks, do they have to or should they include a protein component to them? Because I hear that all the time.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I often think about, having regular meals and snacks. And certainly we know that if you eat regularly, and that can mean different things for different people, we want it to be a combination of foods. But even if it's one single food and you've had a good source of protein in your other meals and other snacks, it doesn't always have to contain a protein. Historically, great practice when you're feeding kids to get all the vitamins and minerals into them is to do a couple of foods at a time. And we know that certainly with younger kids, they might be more apt to eating one of the foods on their plate. So when you offer more things, that you increase their the opportunity to increase their nutrition.
Yeah,
So
and
not always, but yeah, definitely you can, and I think personal preference comes into play there as well.
Yeah, and I'm going a little off some of the questions that I sent you, but I am curious. So, do our tastes change as we age? So, for kids, for example, do you find that the taste buds change, their preferences? Is it color, texture? What
Yeah.
happens there?
Yeah, absolutely. Our taste changes, and we've probably all experienced that where we might not have been a lover of, bitter tastes early on in life, and then we've sort of gradually accepted them. And there's a couple of things that happen. Obviously, your taste buds change, but your exposure changes as well.
Mm,
And I've certainly seen this, not necessarily with Jacqueline, but with her brother, where he has really started, he's 10, and he started to develop that taste for vegetables.
mm.
And where he loved cherry tomatoes, and that was his staple, now he eats broccoli and he eats spinach and things like that. So and that's just as you mature, your taste buds change. And also, we've put that on the plates for 10 years now, and
Right.
that it would evolve and he would eat some extra vegetables.
Yeah, I could see that. So there's hope for parents. Is that what you're
There's
telling
hope
us?
for parents.
Okay.
Yes, there's hope for parents. Now, I will say that there's lots of foods that we don't like, right?
Mm,
There's no way that I'm going to get my husband to eat a Brussels sprout. He
right.
didn't develop the flavor for it, regardless of how many times he was exposed to it. And so we have to just accept that there are some things that we have personal preferences for.
Okay, that's great. So, Jackie, I want to ask you some questions. So, for everyone at home, this is Jackie. Jackie is in grade 2. Her favorite color is baby blue, and favorite animal is cheetah. Is that correct? All right, good. That's a snapshot about Jackie. And so, what is your favorite subject in school?
Art.
Art. And so now you're not in school, you're learning at home. So, do you do art every day?
No.
You don't do it every day? And what do you do if you do art sometimes? What might you do? What are types of art things that you might do? Would you color?
Painting rocks.
Paint rocks? Oh, that's awesome. I've seen some painted rocks in the forest near my house recently. That's very cool. And so, do you like learning at home instead of going to school?
Yeah.
You do? Do you miss your friends?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it different for you learning on the computer instead of going to school? Yeah. And is it hard?
Yeah.
Is it? But are there some fun things that you like? Do your teachers send you games and things like that to do to work on your skills? They do? Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's a big difference. I was talking to some kids the other day and they were saying, yeah, I get to play games, to work on my alphabet, to work on my reading, to work on my math. So it's kind of actually more fun sometimes. And so what's it like being at home with your mom and dad all day?
I don't know.
You don't know. That's okay. That's okay. And so now you probably know this. I bet you can give me a good answer for this. What is your favorite snack?
Crackers and cheese.
Crackers and cheese. Cool. And do you like orange cheese or white cheese?
White cheese.
Oh, okay. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Jackie. I'm sure there's lots of kids watching at home who also love cheese and crackers as their go-to snack. And so I'm going to turn it back to Jennifer. Jen, what are the worst things to eat before embarking on learning?
Yeah, great question, Cathy. So I want to preface this by saying I don't believe in bad foods.
Okay.
Obviously, I think all foods can fit, and we enjoy lots of treats, and I think we need to do that. But when we think about feeding our brain, we want to think about something that's going to have some staying power and really feed our brain so that we can concentrate retain what we're learning. So I always think about, what do we have in Canada's food guide? So those whole grains, those fruits, the protein foods, like I said. And so think about the things that don't fall under there. So I would say, if I had to say worst foods, probably not the ideal thing to sit down with a candy bar and a pop. Right? Those things are going to be really quick sugar. They're going to increase your blood sugar, but they're not going to have that staying power and feed your brain for a long term. And so not have those, just to maybe think about them at maybe a different time, and enjoy them in moderation.
Right. It is hard with the candy bar and soda, I find. What time of day can you actually eat this? So breakfast, sort of not appropriate. Lunchtime, maybe. Before bed, I don't know. But yeah, everything in moderation.
Absolutely. And you know what we often do is we'll have a dessert, or it's movie night, and we'll have our treats for movie night and things like that. So they certainly fit in. But when we're going to get ready to do our homeschooling right now, I want to make sure that everyone's had a good breakfast and has some good healthy snacks to feed their brains.
Yeah. And is there a particular good time to eat before embarking with learning at home? Like 30 minutes before, 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's another really great question. There isn't really any great evidence to say that there's a specific time. Certainly when we think about things when we are in school, things like breakfast programs, we know that, kids that are fed are going to learn better, which is why they implemented things like breakfast programs. But it's more about making sure that we have a constant source of energy and not eat 30 minutes before or an hour before, just making sure that, you've got regular intervals. I really like schools and the nutrition breaks, because it doesn't let you go longer than, 2 or 3 hours between having something to eat and getting that good supply of energy to your brain.
Yeah, that makes total sense, actually. That's great. So before we go, what resources would you recommend? I know you mentioned Canada's Food Guide, so that's been revised recently in the last 2 years, I think.
Yes. Yeah. So I love Canada's Food Guide as a really just high level document. They've got some great recipes in there, some great snack ideas. The other go-to is unlockfood.ca. And so there was a couple of resources that are in there specifically around how to eat for learning in school. And I think a lot of that can apply to home as well. And some really great, just even snack ideas and breakfast ideas. Jackie and I have shared a little bit of what we do and our own preferences, but certainly there's a lot more. And I always encourage families to go in and think about what works for them. So those would be certainly my go-tos for some extra advice.
Well, I want to thank both of you lovely ladies for taking the time to be on the program today. This is great information to share with families about different snack ideas in terms of the timing and some resources. So I just wanted to say thank you and take care.
Thanks, Cathy.
Bye.
Bye. My next guest today is Cathy Hahn. Cathy is the Executive Director of Food for Kids Hamilton, where she enthusiastically leads the Food for Kids Hamilton team as they fulfill their mission to feed 1,250 children in need every week. Welcome to the show, Cathy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So obviously there's a huge need in terms of kids and nutrition, and Food for Kids is such a great organization. And I'm wondering, so if you could tell me a little bit about some of the issues in our community as it relates to kids and food, and have access to food and statistics, things like that.
So a lot of our families are faced with significant barriers in terms of accessing food. And some of those barriers are physical limitations and physical illness, mental illness, special needs children. Certainly job loss in this economy is one of the barriers and challenges that our families are faced with. And we make an effort to contact each one of our families just to see how they're doing and to check in on them during this time. And we ask them, how they're coping. How is it with having the kids at home? How is it trying to accomplish the online learning? We get feedback that a lot of the kids, like every other child, wants to snack all day long. And where access to food may have been an issue before COVID-19, it most certainly is a larger issue right now. And so most of our families have told us, actually about 20% of our families have told us that they are additionally accessing a food bank. But for the most part, the other 80% are relying 100% on Food for Kids for their support. And so the gift cards, the grocery cards that we're sending them every 2 weeks, and the support that we're providing to them is their lifeline in terms of access to food. So that has been very eye-opening for us. It's a well-published statistic that typically 4 out of 10 eligible participants that could visit a food bank choose to. But for us, it's actually significantly lower. It's only 20% of our families.
Wow. And so you mentioned the gift card. So typically Food for Kids, from what I understand, children take home food on Fridays from, they receive it at school, but obviously we're not in school. So you mentioned the grocery cards. How does that work?
Yeah, so March 12th, the announcement of the school closure changed a lot for Food for Kids, and we had to pivot quickly because you're right, Cathy, we do deliver, specifically Hamilton delivers to 68 schools across Hamilton. So feeding those 1,250 kids every weekend, sending them home with that food bag on Friday evening. So with COVID, we no longer have that opportunity. And now with the announcement of the extended closure, we know that the most efficient way to reach our families and to give them that opportunity to purchase what they need for their family is the grocery cards. So in Food for Kids Hamilton's case, every 2 weeks, we are distributing $25 grocery cards to every child in our program. Thus far, that has amounted to over $150,000 worth of grocery cards distributed back to our kids.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Thank you.
It's so amazing that you've managed to really take your organization and think about different ways to really allow these people to access food and these kids have access to nutrition.
For sure. And a lot of our families have told us their appreciation of allowing them to choose what they need. So a lot of our families, the kids have allergies and the families have cultural preferences. So there are some foods that they simply won't or can't eat. And so we maintain a respect of that when we're delivering the food bags, and providing them with the grocery cards allows them to go and get what their family needs. So they're letting us know that as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow, phenomenal.
I will say it's also, sorry, I will say it's also been a community effort. I really do have to say that our ability to pivot and our ability to continuously distribute these cards and raise the funds needed has been a community effort, and we've had the support of the community since day one.
That's fantastic. So going back to that sort of snacking all day that you were talking about, and kids, not only kids in your program wanting to do this, but all kids. So what are some of the signs that kids might give us that they're feeling hungry, but not necessarily telling us that they're hungry?
Behavioral is one of them. So if kids are acting up and there's no real cause behind that, kids in our program, so what happens in our program is the school looks for signs of hunger, and that's when they call us. So some of those signs could be the child is just withdrawn. The child isn't present, so there's no in the moment learning. The social aspect of being at school, it sometimes isn't there because the child just isn't interacting and doesn't have the confidence to do so. There are some of our kids where they will sort of hang back in the classroom after the nutrition break or after the lunch break, and the teacher will stay back just to watch what's going on. And they've seen a child go into the garbage and pull out a discarded sandwich or a half-eaten apple because that's all the child has access to. So that's a very blatant sign of hunger that the child has reached that level of desperation to look for food in the garbage. But most certainly there are kids that complain about physical ailments. So their stomach's always hurting, or they have a headache. And with some food provided to them, there's an automatic improvement in how they're feeling. Those are the types of situations that we look for. Some kids don't bring any food whatsoever to school. So despite the fact that there's 2 nutrition breaks and a lunch break, they don't have anything available to them.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about this in terms of families who have lower economic status, but then also families where right now parents are working both full-time in the home. Kids aren't necessarily getting the attention just by no fault of anyone.
Right.
Meals are getting slipped by. Kids are trying to do their work on their own. Parents are trying to manage what they've got to do. And so if parents can be aware of these signs of hunger, like, oh, they're just sitting there or they're complaining about this or that, I think that goes a long way for all families, and saying, okay, you know what, maybe they're acting this way, they're having this behavior because they are hungry. Let's get a snack, not throw them an apple, but, provide an apple, some cheese and crackers, whatever is there to really boost that in order for them to learn more efficiently.
Absolutely. And we know that with lack of nutrition, the impact on academic success, it's huge. When a child doesn't have the confidence, if they don't have the social interactions, if they aren't in the moment because they're worried about, I haven't eaten in days, how can a child who goes hungry day after day as a way of life concentrate on learning something and concentrate on their academic success or whatever lesson is in front of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great, when the school's in session, there are teachers looking out for that and seeing those signs. And, what would you say that the people in our community can do to support kids with nutrition, support food for kids, Halton, Hamilton? What would some of those things be?
The biggest thing for us in terms of support is awareness. A lot of people that we talk to aren't necessarily aware that this is an issue, and this is an issue for thousands of kids in our community, both Halton and Hamilton. And so they're just simply not aware. And we find that with awareness comes the natural evolution of support. And so if you're aware that there's a fundraiser, if you're aware there's an opportunity to donate, please participate, because we as Food for Kids are not funded by any sustainable funding. We fundraise on our own. We accept public donations, of course. We apply for government grants, but every bit of awareness helps us to raise those funds that we need. So keep an eye out for what's happening. We have lots of fun fundraisers going on that you can participate in, and that's always an option, as well as going online to our website to donate.
And so would you say that preferable to donate grocery gift cards or monetary support, or, like you said, keep an eye out for those fundraising initiatives?
Absolutely. All three are great. If you can get grocery cards to us, that is great. Our preference is funds right now. Our preference is a financial donation, simply because we purchase grocery cards in bulk. And so that's a bit easier. And with us not physically being in our building right now, it's easier to just go online. Canada Helps has us listed, but it's right there on our website. And you get an automatic tax receipt as well. So it's a pretty easy option to do, and it helps so much.
That's great. Well, I just really appreciate all the information that you've given us. There is obviously a clear link between nutrition and academic abilities, concentration, learning, and us getting a better understanding of food for kids, the work that you guys do. And, like you said, the personal reach outs that you've been doing to families, I'm sure have gone a long way, not only in terms of helping them feel connected and supported, but also in terms of their mental health and connection to the community. So I think it goes further than those gift cards. So yeah, I just want to thank you for everything that you guys do.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on.
Anytime. Thanks, Cathy. I have learned a lot of information today, and I hope you have too, from our 3 guests. Jennifer, Cathy, and Jackie about their perspectives on nutrition. We've learned a little bit about the environment in Halton and Hamilton with respect to children and nutrition needs. And then we've also learned about snacks and different snacks and the way our brains work and respond to great nutrition and learning. So for more information, visit www.beyondtheclassroom.ca, where we'll have a list of resources from our guests today. And until next time, I'm Cathy Thompson.